In a remote corner of the desert between Nevada and California lies a curious canyon with a mysterious ghost town in it, and supposedly, nobody has been there in the upwards of a century. This expedition was the idea of my friend Alan Patera, a ghost town archaeologist and author of the Western Places book series. Working on his next installment in the series about some of the smaller towns south of Goldfield, he spotted 4 dots on an antique map marking a cluster of buildings near an old mining claim. There's no record of the name of this tiny town. There's no record of the date. There's no record of what is there today. Alan used to work for the United States Census Department, and with all of his resources, he still found no record of this place. But here it was, marked on this map. As far as he was able to tell from his vast networking, nobody alive has been there. Alan's friend owns a cabin in the partial ghost town of Lida, not too far away, and this would be our starting point for the day. In Alan's books, he never likes to write about a ghost town that he hasn't actually been to, and this one was going to be a challenge. Fortunately, we were able to join him on this. At the cabin we went over our route, but we weren't certain if we'd actually be able to make it into the canyon today, or if the day would simply be a scouting trip, heading into the canyon tomorrow instead. Ruins scatter the Nevada desert at the end of nearly every old road. But they've weathered so many sandstorms and been bleached under the summer sun that they've now almost become a part of the natural landscape. The old stamp mill at the ruins of Pigeon Spring was the point where we left the highway behind. It loomed over us like a castle gate, and behind it was the desert wilderness.
These 2 mills are said to have been here, and that one would be this one, I think.
You can see the steps that still exist.
And it says it's called the Silver Champion Mill.
The mountain range was scattered with old mule trails and stagecoach roads in varying degrees of maintenance, but several of these were uncharted. One dead end after another, but rarely did they come without some sort of a discovery at the end of it. Down one road, we found a site that didn't seem to be associated with any known mining claims.
Well, if I had to guess, I would say this is probably a 1 or 2 man operation, maybe in the 1920s.
Oh, it just keeps on going up the hill, too. This is quite an installation.
So the mine must be right up there. That's a tailing pile, so it's right behind that. And they would shoot it down here. And I think this is probably just an ore bin, and they would pile up the ore there, load it into trucks and carry it off. Which is what they were doing in the 1920s, they were using trucks to haul ore.
Another site had some more modern debris, but Alan suspected that the building itself may initially have been constructed as a stagecoach stop, as the building materials dated to the early era of Nevada, and we were on the old 1880 stage route to Gold Mountain to the south. We got a 1956 trailer here with a permit from 2011.
What I can tell you is that the border here is locally made cement. It crumbles pretty easily. In later years they'd use Portland cement, and that kept walls up pretty well. I would guess that the building itself dates to about 1876, 77.
No, just storage. Ruins were around every corner. We didn't even have the time to stop and survey all of them. In most cases, we were given the impression of the date that they were abandoned by the car that was left along with the building. Of course, not that this is a reliable reference. The old and mostly abandoned roads quickly became a maze.
None of the roads out here match what's on here.
The atlas and the satellite GPS were woefully inaccurate, and we found ourselves actually using the drone to scout ahead. And frankly, It was with this method that we were finally able to put ourselves onto the right track, and by then, half the day had burned by. After 3 hours of winding through backcountry, the road opened out onto a cliff overlooking a canyon. But was this the right canyon?
Yeah, here you can see the problem. This is about as close as we get by road, and the mine camp is 800 feet down. Now, do we know if this is Alum Creek?
We don't know anything yet.
Well, I know I've never been here before.
Stopping for lunch and surveying the area compared to our map, we were able to determine that yes, this was the correct canyon, but now we needed to decide the best way down into it. There were no roads marked on the map. We have a trail going to our left, which is to the south. And we can follow that. It goes down into this canyon. At the bottom of this canyon is the Alum Creek and Poison Spring. And about a mile due south of here is the junction with the Uncle Sam Creek. And right there within the fork of that are the 4 buildings we're looking for. Well, it turned out that the road was completely impassable, wiped out after around 800 feet from a massive old landslide, and we needed to double back up to the cliff top, further eating into the day. Using the drone, we were able to discern another trail on the opposite side of the canyon, offering a clearer access all the way down, but this one still looked rugged. It was very windy, but the drone managed to make it, and followed the Alum Creek all the way down to where it meets the Uncle Sam Creek, and from there we were able to actually use the drone to chart our path going down into the canyon. We think this might be the road going down. There's no way we're going to get the car down, so we're just going to scout up ahead a little bit and see if this is it. And I think the plan now is we're going to come back tomorrow and try to get down. We knew that there were no reports of anyone having been in the canyon and at the town in nearly a century, but it became apparent that likely nobody had walked this trail in as much time. It was unmaintained, decrepit, and completely without a trace of any recent activity. No footprints, no modern litter, and nothing was unnaturally disturbed. And the road is definitely not maintained. I very well might be the first person walking this trail in a century. That's quite a thought. Well, Alan, you're sure as hell not getting past this.
Yeah, it's looking a little rough here. I don't think any car I own was going to do this.
Where would the mine be in relation to the buildings we're looking for?
It's probably in this basin somewhere. Because like I say, miners did not want to walk uphill after a day's work, so it's downhill to the mine camp.
Now we turn around, head back, resupply, get some food, join up with the others, come back out here earlier tomorrow. It's past 3 o'clock now. We don't want to be in the canyon after dark, and we don't want to have to drive out of here after dark. So it's a good call to do this tomorrow. We scouted about a third of the way down into the canyon, down towards, it would probably take us out into the Alum Canyon. And now we'll be coming back tomorrow. Heading out of here, we're gonna leave markers along the trail so we know how to come back here without wasting time looking around again. Alan stayed at the cabin in Lida, but Emma and I indulged in historical comfort and stayed at the 1907 Mizpah Hotel in nearby Tonopah, a hotel with a history of all the Wild West tropes: bank robbery, brothels, murder, and outlaws. Supposedly, even Wyatt Earp once worked at this place. If there's enough interest, I'd actually be willing to make a full video on this building someday. Starting bright and early, we retraced our path from the day before. We missed our chance at conducting this expedition on the cool, overcast weather of yesterday. Today, it was sunny, hot, and clear. Alan's friend accompanied us to the trailhead where we briefed him on our plan for the day. If we didn't return by dark, he knew where to start looking.
It looks like it just completely that road just went off.
Yeah, it'd be pretty rough to get past that.
Yeah, and then that's what's left of it. Boy, oh boy.
Alan's friend had left us behind, and it was now 9 in the morning, and we were alone out here. It's 3 miles down into the canyon, and 3 miles back up. That might not sound like much, but the temperature was forecasted to surpass 100 degrees Fahrenheit, or almost 38 Celsius by midday. From the crest of the mountain looking down into the canyon, one can see Death Valley on the horizon, one of the hottest places on Earth. The nearest weather station in the valley would register 117 degrees, or 47 Celsius that afternoon. We'd take it cautiously and of course ready to pull the plug if anyone became seriously overheated, and we carried an excessive amount of water and Gatorade. Some of the roads we followed getting out to this canyon were old wagon and stage roads, but the one that we were on now likely was a secondary access road for the miners. In the late 1800s, behind us would be several large towns and even cities, but in the direction we were going, beyond this mystery town, there was absolutely nothing for another 100 miles ahead. The road had been wiped out in some areas over the last century, washed away from the normally comfortable 15-foot width to a thin ledge looming over 50-foot precipices.
I've got nothing to say. It's hot. It's hot, it's a long walk, we're rationing water. Not much more to say. Looks like right now, I guess we're about halfway down into the canyon. It's getting hotter as we get lower. We do have the occasional breeze. Really can't beat that view. But actually, here's our first piece of litter. That is old. There's no markings whatsoever on it. But that is old, and that is hot.
Only a mile down into the canyon, and the heat was already getting to us. We'd stop for rests in the shade before continuing farther.
I see structures down there. Quite a bit, actually. Like more than just your usual abandoned mine. Looks like it was abandoned and then not touched for a very long time, so we might find some interesting things down there.
After around a 3-hour descent, we reached the top of the Alum Creek. It wasn't dry, and there actually was more than just a trickle running from it, and it flowed from what was called Poison Spring.
It's pretty amazing if there's water in the creek. Too bad it's poisonous.
I could really go for a refill of stuff right now.
If the names didn't make it obvious enough, the yellow growth around the water sure made it clear that we would not be refilling our canteens here. We did cool our shirts in it though, however, ultimately staining them permanently. But, well, that was worth it in this heat. Here is the little that we do know going into this place. In the 1870s, a mining claim was purchased in this canyon, and it was called the Uncle Sam Mine. We know that there was a wave of mining work done then, and likely another wave of work during the 1920s, when several of the nearby canyons saw mining activity. In 1922, the Uncle Sam Mine was still trading on the San Francisco Stock Exchange. That's all we know. If these buildings are from the early 1870s mine, they'd be made out of stone, and would be one of the oldest lost towns in the United States. If they're made of wood, then they're likely from the later 1920s mining work, and still would be of high historical value to survey.
Yeah.
Builder.
Oh yeah. Here we go. A big one. Another one back there. I've spotted 3 here, Alan. Okay, so likely we've got 2 more. Alan, yeah? There's a car back here. Emma, come here, quick.
Well, we made it here, which is amazing. It's a site I found on maps. The 1957 topo sheets showed 4 vacant buildings. I think we found 5 collapsed buildings. And I was hoping to find an 1875 mine camp with rock structures, but this is all frame construction and there's an old automobile, so it pretty much points to a 1920s mine camp. And they probably came up from below rather than coming down the way we did. It's almost impossible to tell what any of these buildings are. The one behind us over here, in front of me, has a big stack, so that might have been a kitchen, a galley type place. We found some shoes, other artifacts, but they're all 1920-ish. So much to know, so much to explore, and we can only do so much, and it's hot out. Not many people have been here, certainly not since the 1920s. And I think we should congratulate ourselves that we made the trip, made it, and made it back, I hope.
I have ham, cheese, and bread, but in the event that we were successful today,
Which we were. I wonder if champagne's ever been opened in this canyon.
if they had a car down here, something tells me
I
it's
was
possible.
speculating that Emma might be the first woman in here.
And that's also quite possible.
Emma, would you like some?
Sure, thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you. These are quite comfortable dwellings. In fact, some of them I'm wondering if they weren't 2 floors tall. This one here, there's a lot of wood piled up. Screen doors. There's actually quite a bit of extra screen right over here, but this one has screen doors, terracotta plumbing. There's even indication of electrical wiring on that one over there, but Alan believes that was off of a generator. It's hot down here, but I believe these houses made it quite comfortable. Beep, beep. There's all these nails, but the frame is made of wood in this car. Well, not the chassis, but the cab frame is all wood. I'm out of here.
We later found out from one of Alan's friends that the automobile was a Ford Model A, circa 1930, pushing back a little bit the last confirmed visit to this canyon. It likely would have been driven in from the south, up the canyon, and not down from above, the way we walked in. Most ghost towns out here have been thoroughly picked over, with nothing but broken bottles and rusty metal remaining. To see nearly complete shoes, boot buckles, tools, and discarded personal effects make this one of the most complete sights I've ever seen out here. Everything was there, making this place almost like a time capsule.
I think it's safe to say I have no need to ever come back to this canyon. We found the town, we surveyed it, we documented it, we found the mine, we found the creeks. What more is there except thirst?
As Alan had previously said, miners did not want to walk uphill after a long day's work, but we still had to. Our supplies were running low at this point, and with the sun overhead, we had a 3-mile hike up out of the canyon. I'd be lying if I said that we didn't struggle our way up.
I have no phone signal, but my phone is still displaying the weather. The floor of the canyon, a little bit down towards the end of Alum Creek, about a half a mile farther. It's 117 degrees Fahrenheit right now, or 47 degrees Celsius. All right, let's catch up with Alan and make sure he's all right.
And would I ever do this again? No, I would never do this again.
– 400 feet. Almost there. Here she is. What a wonderful sight. Waiting for Emma. We drank the first half of this bottle at Uncle Sam Mine. We saved the second half for when we know we all survived and made it up to the car. We're all a little dead.
But not completely dead.
Cheers.
Cheers.
To the mine and your next book. All right.
Air conditioning.
Yeah. Well, Alan, how are you feeling?
My legs are going to be sore tomorrow, but I'm glad we did it.
This food is so good. And we're so tired. This was something to look forward to.
I've been working on this book for maybe 5 years and was almost ready to publish 3 years ago. And I knew there was more information. I know there's still a lot more information out here. There's not too many people that even know about this area, so there's not a built-up interest of people waiting for a book on it. But anyway, I want people to know that I do my legwork, I do my homework, I get out there. I won't write about some place that I haven't walked the ground or know what it looks like. And here we are.
This expedition was able to successfully locate the old Uncle Sam mining camp in Alum Creek, Nevada. First established circa 1875, the work continued on and off until we believed the mid-1920s, but that automobile down there told us the early 1930s was likely the last confirmed time anybody had visited. It's highly unlikely that anybody has passed through there since then, and if they had, they did so without a trace. Alan's book series, Western Places, is a must-have for ghost town enthusiasts and Western historians. They can be found at westernplaces.net. And his installation covering this canyon has been released this week.